There are no downtown high schools in this country with open enrollment, education comprehensive, and the largest high school in their states. It doesn't exist.
Picture-wise, the foundation was founded because of the generosity of Central grads. They were giving money back to Central High School because they had success in their careers and they wanted to offer the same types of opportunities to Central students.
I was the PTA president back here in 1996, and talking to Dr. Muller, the principal at the time, over a number of years he raised a lot of money from the alumni, friends of Central. All that money was sitting in the Omaha public schools, and we were concerned that the money that was raised for Central might be allocated for something else.
Primarily in the beginning for small projects and scholarships, about scholarship money. And then it's evolved into a much more significant foundation now.
Central's very, very diverse. We talk about 45% Caucasian, 25% African American, 25% Hispanic. Again, those kids come from everywhere.
I think that's what makes us go. I think that's why people send their kids to Central. They want them to have a look at the real world that not everybody's going to look like that. Not everybody's going to do the same things as they do.
When you look at student achievement data, typically you see differences when you break it down by socioeconomic status of students. Because achievement is so often tied to opportunity, it's referred to as an opportunity gap. You need to understand and recognize where they've come from and try to provide some of the experiences that they were not able to get prior to coming to school.
Whenever you can give an experiential learning opportunity, it's a big thing. Get kids out of the textbook, out of the classroom, and to relate what they're learning in those things to the real world. It was a once in a lifetime experience, and you know, we've all had those in high school, we've all had those in college, where you have that one experience that really molds you, that changes you, that you never forget about. And what my hope would be, they would be in a position to give back to, and say, you know what, that scholarship, that grant really helped me do some great things, and I'm going to give back.
You have an entire spectrum, from the richest to the rich to some of the most challenged economically in this country. And that's what I think makes this place so unique. It is an anomaly. It's an outlier. And that's why it's a beacon for everything that's good in education.
I forgot how bright those lights are. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the finest high school in the country. No question about it. The great-great-great-grandmother of all public education in the metro, the original high school. 159 years young and getting better. That's how we roll at Central High School. I want to thank everyone who is here tonight and come to celebrate a tradition here in this high school. The idea that it's a celebration of individuals who met the expectations throughout a portfolio of a lifetime in education, in their careers, within their overall perspective on life. And that's what tonight is a recognition of 10 individuals, and I want to say congratulations to those 10 individuals for your contributions back to Omaha Central High School. You are very, very important tonight, and you are to be honored. So a big round of applause for our Before we start tonight's ceremonies, I would like to now call up Chris Pellman, the Central High School Alumni Association President, and have her share some words in regards to our nomination process. Ms. Pellman.
Good evening. On behalf of the Omaha Central High Alumni Association, either welcome back or welcome to Central High School. Every year, I am in awe of the accomplishments of the Hall of Fame class and all they have accomplished in their lives, and to think it all started here at Central High School, in the very same halls that some of you walked. Tonight, I would like to share with you exactly how an inductee makes it to this stage and place of honor. It all starts with someone making a thoughtful nomination of an alum, a staff or teacher, or a community member. These nominations are collected over a 12-month period. The Hall of Fame chair is selected by the Alumni Association, and a selection committee is formed. Every effort is made for the selection committee to be as diverse as the student body of CHS in terms of gender, age, and cultural background. This group meets over a 3-month period, and it is their job to review each and every packet that is received. Packets can range from 1 page to many, many, many pages. But let me take pause here to tell you, quantity does not mean quality. The committee narrows the large group to a small subsection that is then voted upon. The point system, which is a balloting process, was designed by someone far smarter than me, who probably did much better in the CHS math classes. As a side note, when I completed my math requirements of only 2 years back in 1982, I can safely tell you that my goal was to never, ever go into another math class. Once the ballots are tallied, the task of selecting the 10 members of the Hall of Fame is complete. I've chaired this committee, and I can tell you this selection process is an objective method that requires work and thought by the committee. A committee member probably puts in more than 20 hours of work over a 3-month period. This year, the committee evaluated over 60 nominations. Nominations for next year's Hall of Fame will be open until December 31st. If you are thinking of someone who deserves this honor, I would encourage you to take time to submit a nomination, as this is where it all starts. At this time, I turn the program back to Dr. Bigsby.
And I am a member of that committee, and I can tell you it is very arduous and it is challenging because it gets so many wonderful candidates representing the various years of attendance. It's amazing. At this time, we need to do some thank yous and some recognition. And I'm going to go through some people who have been integral to the selection process, to the dinner we had tonight, the people who were supportive, as well as past honorees who were in attendance. And so we'll get started. So I would like to first thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for recommending another great class of inductees. And I would appreciate it if the following individual members would please stand and be recognized, and I would ask that you hold your applause until I get through everybody's name. Starting with the Hall of Fame Committee Chair this year was Dick Zachariah. Members, if you're here, would you please stand? Kenneth Allen, Larry Albert, Jordan Boyer, Elizabeth Cook, Brian Fahey, Beth Katz, Charles Reed, Dan Rock, and Bailey Rutten. So If those individuals are here, let's give them a round of applause. The next group I would like to recognize is our Central High School Alumni Association for their energy and their effort in making this Hall of Fame celebration possible. They are an amazing group of people. A special thanks to the committee for tonight putting on this wonderful event. So again, I would like to recognize those individuals who were involved with tonight's event. And as I call your name, if you would stand, and again, please hold your applause. We'll start with President Chris Pellman, Hall of Fame dinner committee members Nancy Callender, Henry Cordes, Jeanette Johnson, Janine Mason, Katie Pellman, Bailey Ruffin, and Cheryl and Gary Willis. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I would also like to recognize and thank the Central High School Foundation for its support of Central High School, its alumni, and their support of this event. And so I would like to recognize the board members of the foundation who are present, as well as the members of the foundation staff. So when I would call your name, if you would please stand. Dr. Ed Bennett, Julie Cobb, Rusty Crossman, Christy Hayes, Mike Lavins, Marilee Miller, Executive Director Michelle Roberts, Events and Alumni Relations Manager Sydney Davidson, and Communications and Database Manager Josh Boosie. Well, let's give these people a round of applause. Thank you. And we have some individuals who are former Hall of Fame honorees, and I would like to recognize those individuals who joined in celebrating the new class and thank them for being a part and their ongoing contributions back to Central High School. Our members, Hall of Fame member honorees who are in attendance tonight include, and again, if you will please stand, Scott Barker, Dr. Jerry Bartee, Dr. Ramona Bartee, Henry Cordes, Rusty Crossman, Joe DeSacco, Chris Foster, Terry Foster, Sandy Friedman, Mike Garrity, and Peggy Jorgensen. I've got a few more: Steve Morantz, Marilee Miller, Rita Ryan, Rudy Smith, and Bob Wington. Let's give these people a round of applause. Thank you. With those thank yous said, at this time, I would like to introduce the current principal of Omaha Central High School, Dr. Edward Bennett. Dr. Bennett.
Thank you, Dr. Bixby. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you here this evening and to be the 19th principal of this amazing school, the Omaha Central High School. Since 1944, there have only been 7 Central High principals, and 3 of them besides me are here tonight. When I introduce you, would you please stand? The 16th principal, Mr. Jerry Bexton, the 17th principal, Mr. Greg Emmel, and the 18th, Dr. Keith Bixby. How about a nice round of applause? My walkie and talkie and keys are available to you fellows if you want to take another crack at it. Bauen, German. Construire, French. Construire, Spanish. Agriculture, Latin. C&D, Chinese. What do all these languages and words have in common? Well, first of all, the languages are all taught here at Central. And all in the English translation for them all is build. Yes, we teach English here too. Does anyone have a style book? Miss Ryan, did I get the Latin right? You can tell me the truth. You were tired. Okay. What does this matter tonight? Well, as I was preparing and perusing this year's inductees, I noticed a theme among all their accomplishments that was so powerful and so apropos, considering this is the year we move into the new Arts and Library edition. This year's inductees are all builders in their own chosen fields. From Doris Stevens, who built coalitions of support for women's suffrage, Harry A. Koch Jr., who built the family business into an insurance powerhouse, Barry Combs, who built the framework for Central's historic artifacts, Stephen and Judith Hutton Olson, who built the Humane Society into a national model of excellence for animal welfare, Olive Graham, who built a reputation in radio journalism and a road for those to follow, Jerry Slusky, who built the law firm and the annual Omaha Commercial Real Estate Summit, Sally Fox, who built programs and designed legislation to help those in need, Merle Rambo, who built his own architecture firm, and of course, the courtyard roof that we enjoy each day here at Central. Sam Johnson, who built TV scripts for shows that win Emmys, and from what I understand, had a fairly effective underground newspaper that was apparently discovered by the principal. Sam, I've been told to keep an eye on you this evening. And of course, Mike and Susan Labens, who built Tenaska and Mutual of Omaha respectively, and have not only built, but anchored so many important projects here at Central, including, of course, the new Arts and Library Edition. Well, how does that impact Central High in 2018? To you, this class of inductees and accomplished builders, I want you to know that we continue to follow your lead by working at Central each day to build our current Eagles into the intelligent, thoughtful, industrious, and community-minded citizens who will build lives, families, careers, and organizations when their time comes, and will carry on the legacy of Eagle excellence. They are already showing that they have the ability. Currently, we remain the most distinguished, most successful, most diverse, and of course, the best high school not only in the state of Nebraska, but in the entire country. We have athletics this morning, 2,650 students, born in 40 different countries, speaking over 82 different languages. 12 of the finest Eagles are here this evening as student ambassadors, and you'll get to see them. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. We have an unabashed appreciation for the two things that Central grads have always cherished: academic excellence and an appreciation of diversity in all of its forms. This year we have multiple National Merit Scholar semifinalists and commendation winners, one of only 3 IB programs in the state, and of course the highest performing of those 3. We have Mr. Scott Wilson, social studies teacher, who is one of 2 finalists for Nebraska Teacher of the Year. If he doesn't get it, I'm going to write a strongly worded email. Outstanding. Standardized test scores, a senior class garnering interest in the nation's finest colleges and universities, winning athletic teams, activities, award-winning musicals, plays, and ensembles, filled with all-state musicians. The 105th Road Show on the calendar began. A dedicated and erudite faculty, including many Hall of Fame distinguished educator candidates and 7 members with doctorates. And of course, an incredible foundation that works tirelessly to support our students and connect to and honor our alums, and to bring together the past, the present, and the future. Yes, Central is still Central, and a word to the wise is still sufficient. Our tradition of excellence and influence on the community, much like the passion of our proud alumni, continues to grow. In closing, my warmest congratulations to our inductees and their families, and my sincere thanks to all the other Central alums and supporters here with us this evening for all you've done and continue to do for us here at Central High School. We're very glad you're here. Thank you.
This place and its leadership just amazed me. I'm so jealous. We are now to the recognition portion of the program. And so members of the Central High School National Honor Society will be introducing the inductees. And so we will be calling them up, all 10 of them, and we will hear their presentation. So at this time, our first inductee, Doris Stevens, Central High School, 1905.
Vice President here at Central. It is my honor to introduce inductee Doris Stevens, class of 1905. Stevens became one of the nation's leading and most controversial suffragists. At a time few women went to college, Stevens graduated from Oberlin when she was introduced to the suffragist movement. In 1917, she and other members of the National Woman's Party began picketing outside Woodrow Wilson's White House, the first time any group had ever picketed a president. Police began to break up the peaceful protests, and Stevens was among many arrested. But amid continued pressure, the president came out in favor of women's rights to vote. A bill passed Congress in 1920, and the states ratified the 19th Amendment. Stevens wrote a book about her experience called Jailed for Freedom. that became an important historical account of the suffragist movement. Accepting for Doris Stevens is Sally Best.
Thank you so much. Since I am not the Central alum, and I'm obviously not Doris Stevens, otherwise I'd be the most curiously well-preserved graduate of the class of '05. But I'm very glad to be here, and I will briefly tell you how I became familiar with Doris and why I'm here this evening. As she said, my name is Sally Best. I'm an attorney by education, but I'm a full-time professor at the College of St. Mary here in Omaha. And so I was given the opportunity to teach a course about 2 weeks before school started 5 years ago on women's legal rights. There was no textbook, and so I got to prepare my own materials, and I know the other educators here are going, what fun. But I found the book Jailed for Freedom, and then I decided we would focus on the women's suffrage movement. And while reading Jailed for Freedom in the index, the names of the women who were arrested while picketing the White House were there in their hometowns. And Doris Stevens jumped off the page for me because everyone else was from the East Coast. And if you're from Omaha, as I am, we tend to keep track of our people. We know what they've done. And I was very surprised that she had been lost to history. I did some further research. It led to a semester off sabbatical. And this is what I discovered about Doris, but I will be brief. After graduating from Central, she went to Oberlin College. On her way to Oberlin, while she was here, she wrote for the Register. She was the athletic editor. She was a class officer, and she was considered spirited and popular. When she got to Oberlin, she said in her words that she arrived with a shotgun for shooting jackrabbits, an aversion to fudge parties and feminine gossip, and $30 borrowed from her brother. She was musical and taught music lessons as she worked her way through college. She was a teacher, a social worker, and discovered the suffrage movement while she was there. She worked internationally for women's equality and was instrumental in the passage of a treaty for women's rights. Her estate endowed the first chair in women's studies with a $1 million gift to Princeton University in 1986, and yet she was largely forgotten. So after discovering who she was and doing my sabbatical research, I was able to write some articles, and I was interviewed by the Omaha World Herald, and that front page story led to a lot of speaking engagements. And Marilee Miller, who I can't quite see, I think heard one of my speeches and said, I think I should nominate her for the Central Hall of Fame, and I'm so glad she did. She was regularly featured in the New York Times, including her personal life and her views on marriage. She kept her maiden name through 2 marriages. She believed in equal pay for women, including being paid for housework. That didn't work out. And she kept her maiden name both times. These, of course, were rather startling views in the 1920s, anywhere, especially here at home. But she maintained her ties to Omaha throughout her life. When she came home in 1927 and was interviewed by the World Herald, she said, I like the Middle West, and while I was coming out here on the train today, I wondered why I live in New York. After she retired from public life, she headquartered herself mostly in New York, where her second husband lived. She wrote songs about her Nebraska childhood, and with titles such as When Father Made Root Beer, I Taught in a Nebraska One-Room Schoolhouse, and my personal favorite, Lake Manawa. I don't know why that's funny. She really, really cherished her time growing up in Nebraska. Some of her songs were performed at Constitution Hall, and others were performed on national radio. So she was a person of great stature. The last time she was featured in the World Herald prior to her obituary was on the anniversary of her 50th graduation from Central High, so in 1955. She was one of 6 classmates featured who had accomplished a great deal, and she was referred to as the most notable feminist of the 20th century. I have not been able to find any descendants of Doris. That's why I'm here. She did not have children, but I believe there may be some great nieces and nephews that I'm searching for. Since I haven't found them yet, I will take whatever she's given as an honor. We'll keep it at College of St. Mary, and then we will place it, we'll display them, and we'll put it in our archives. If I find a relative, I will certainly forward it to them. But in the meantime, she will not be forgotten or lost to history. So I thank you so very much for inducting her and allowing me to talk about her.
Our next inductee is Harry A. Koch Jr., Central High School, 1947.
My name is Quinn Islands. I'm a senior class representative here at Central. It is my honor to introduce inductee Harry A. Koch Jr., class of 1947. Koch helped build one of the region's largest insurance companies and contribute to much of Omaha civic life. After serving in the Korean War, he was pressed to take over the family insurance business when his father suffered a heart attack. He was only 28. But in 4 decades, he would lead the Harry A. Koch Company into a new era, modernizing its systems, expanding into new lines, and doubling its workforce. His industry leadership was recognized when he was named president of the National Council of Insurance Agents and Brokers. He's a benefactor behind 2 Omaha park attractions, a shooting range, and a tennis center. He was previously honored as King of Exarban and inducted into the Omaha Business Hall of Fame. Harry Koch.
Thank you, Quinn. I came to Central in the fall of 1943. The country was at war. The tide of battle had not yet changed in our direction. The country was solidly behind the war effort. Gas was rationed, food was rationed, and we came to school on the streetcar. At Central, the principal activity was ROTC. This was all freshmen males were required to be part of the ROTC program. It was mandatory due to the Federal Land Grant Act. And most of us went on and did all 4 years while we were here. In the program, we learned how to march, manual of arms, and some basic infantry tactics. We had 2 drill teams. I was on both of them. The elite unit was the Croc Squad, where we would, for our performances, spin our rifles much like you see the Marine drill team do today. It was an experience because spinning a rifle clockwise was easier to do than counterclockwise. So we were encouraged to take our rifles home at night and practice. It was not unusual on the streets of downtown Omaha after school to see a Croc Squad member with his books in one hand and his rifle in the other. If that happened today, think of the furor that would cause. But this was wartime. And people didn't even give you a second look. We learned many things in this regard, but the big deal was in the spring when we would parade. We would form up in the sidewalks around the school. We had 7 companies of at least 50 students each, plus we had a band of a similar number. We would march into the field just west of the university, of the school, and there we would parade. It was quite a spectacle because you had the band playing, flags flying, officers' sabers flashing, and of course the girls watching. I loved it. Following Central, I was accepted into the engineering program at Princeton, where, to say the least, the curriculum was demanding. We had to take 8 courses outside of the engineering school, and I needed easy ones, so what was better than to take ROTC? First of all, didn't have to spend much time on it because I learned most of it at Central anyway. You got a deferment from the draft. At the end, you would end up as a officer, and it all looked just like a nice situation, except for the fact the beginning of our senior year, the North Koreans invaded South Korea and the Korean War started. And so there we were. But that's another story. As far as my experience at Central, the teacher that had the most influence on my life was Alice West. She taught English, and I was with her for all 4 years. Her brother, who was a partner in the Boston law firm, lived next door to us. And as long as I could remember, I would see Miss West get off the streetcar on a Sunday evening and walk the block and a half to her brother's house for Sunday dinner. As my parents were good friends of the West, it was no surprise to me when I showed up at Central to find that I was enrolled in her class. She was tough, she was demanding, austere looking, but boy did we learn grammar and were exposed to the classics. Even today, when texting, I put in the commas in the period, just like I was taught. For Latin, I had Ruth Pillar. The year that I was king of Exarban, she sent me a note. I responded to her note, and at the end of my note, I wrote, quote, erat demonstrandum, and then in parentheses, I wrote, funny what you remember 50 years later. She wrote me back. She said your Latin was correct. So I guess once a teacher, always a teacher. It was a privilege to be a student at Central High School for the friends that I made, the people that I was exposed to, and I will always be grateful for the experience, and I accept this award with a great deal of pride.
Our next inductee is Barry Combs, Central High School, 1950.
And I am a senior class representative at Central. It is my honor to introduce inductee Barry Combs, class of 1950. Few who have walked Central's creaky halls know more about the building, the school, and its rich history than Combs, who since leaving Central has become known as the school's unofficial historian. After joining the founding members of the Central Alumni Association in 1997, Combs helped document and catalog the school's history. He helped choose historical items for display in the school's courtyard and co-authored a 54-page timeline of the school's history. Combs spent his career in the communications department of Union Pacific Railroad and also owned 2 Omaha bookstores. He has also served on the board of the Douglas County Historical Society and co-edited a book on collected letters of Joseph Barker, one of Omaha's earliest pioneers, Mr. Barry Combs.
Thank you. You know, this high school produces remarkable people. And one of them is standing in front of you. And you can snicker anytime you want. One of the things I remember took place toward the end of my senior year. I had written an essay for English class that got me called to the front of the room. "Where did you get this?" the teacher said. "I wrote it," I said. "No, you didn't," she said. It turned out I had been listening to her lectures way too closely and actually had learned a great deal about how to communicate with some meaning. I later made a lifetime and a livelihood out of being able to communicate. And Central did that for me, along with a great deal more. About the same time, my best friend and I decided to take a Greyhound bus and go to New York City during the spring break to hear Metropolitan Opera star Patrice Mansell. We had heard her sing at Jasta, right across the street, at the suggestion of music director Irene Jensen. Particularly, if we wanted a one, we should do that. So, do you remember what a one was? I checked the other day and I found out that you're not using it in the school anymore. Anyway, Patrice was young and beautiful and sang like an angel. And I've been listening to classical music ever since. And this school did that for me. A few years ago, I decided to write Patrice and tell her about our trip to New York to hear her sing, and she answered. It was a very nice thing. And not a lot of schools can do that for you. The class, as you heard, was 1950. I know that sounds like ancient history, and it really was. But this school has given me all the unique potential to live out our lives in fullest. The achievements of its graduates circle the world. Those achievements and their sources need to be conserved. And I should say very quickly that a lot of people in this room right now also have worked for the preservation of those histories. Some of them are sitting in the audience. So what have we actually done so far? So far, we have blocked and filled more than 100 archival boxes with letters, videos, manuscripts, photographs, ordinals, poetry, diaries, and history. We have a human skeleton for the biology class. We have Dale Sayers' letter spread. And we have watched and preserved the first 50 years of the old books. And we will get to the rest soon. Central has really has a historic strength that is almost unheard of. Plus the fact that doing what we're doing is not only satisfying, it's fun. Thank you for recognizing that fun and that strength. Thank you.
Our next inductees are Stephen and Judith Hutton Olson, Central High School, 1960.
Hi, I'm Anthony Bonner, and I'm a senior at Central.
Hi, my name is Chloe Jones, and I'm a senior class representative at Central. It is my honor to introduce inductees Stephen and Judith Hutton Olson, class of 1960. Since their days as sweethearts at Central, Steve and Judy have teamed up to improve life in Omaha, particularly when it comes to the care and welfare of animals. As a volunteer for the Nebraska Humane Society in the early 1990s, Judy became concerned about poor facilities and inadequate care. She established the Friends Forever Guild to get more people and resources behind NHS.
Then she and Steve helped recruit new leadership and push for a $12 million campaign that modernized and greatly expanded the shelter. Steve, an attorney, used his legal expertise to push for stringent new animal welfare laws. It's a legacy to the couple's passion that NHS became one of the nation's most recognized animal welfare organizations. Steve and Judith Olson.
Can't imagine what fun it is to be back on this stage. I was in it several times with the choir and junior choir and last Kiss Me Kate. So it's really exciting and fun because I haven't been back in all these years. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Central High School Foundation, the Central Hall of Fame Committee, the Central Foundation staff, and our friends and family who are here this evening. Steve and I are honored and humbled by this honor. It is special to be honored by our Central peers. We have always felt that we have been very blessed with our journey through life together while supporting each other in each other's interests from Beals Grade School, Central High School, and up to today. We hope that we are thought of as products of the Omaha public school system. It has served us well. The question has been asked, what did I take away from my years attending Central? The answer is always the meaning of respect. The staff at Central expected that the student body was be respectful of each other, and then in turn, the teachers were always respected of the students. Our principal, J.R. Nelson, expected nothing else less than respect. His famous words, a word to the wise is sufficient, rings true to all of us today. The Central 1960 quotes and statement are reinstated at every single reunion that we have. Central High School continues to be one of Omaha's architectural jewels in the landscape of our downtown area, as well as keeping the reputation of a fine educational center. It has always enjoyed a diverse student body, which has been a gift to all who attended Central. Through the years, I have been asked how often I knew so many people. My answer and my response always is, I went to Central High School. I saw a sign one day that read, "Happiness is helping others." I have my happiest moments when I feel I am doing something to help the quality of life in our community. I was given a quote by my daughter-in-law in 1992, which exemplifies the way I have felt about my years volunteering for the Nebraska Humane Society. When you are pursuing a worthwhile idea that you truly feel passionate about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pushes you, or pulls you rather. The vision of making a dream come true today, rather than someday, for local agencies is really my philosophy. Marge Durham was a pivotal person in mentoring me through the journey of advancing the Nebraska Humane Society to the community agency that Omaha enjoys today. Marge was also a Central graduate and a Hall of Fame inductee. When I became a board member of NHS 35 years ago, I soon realized that I needed Marge to help me with the vision that I had. Luckily, she trusted me and was willing to help. I only wish she was here to see what the village of people have accomplished for not only the animals, but the entire community. The first phase of change was hiring Judy Barner as president and CEO. Judy's leadership and vision helped the animal control grow, and animal adoptions and welfare have flourished. During Judy's tenure, NHS is currently known as one of the top animal shelters in the country. Along with the Durham family, Judy led a $12 million campaign enabling NHS to move next door. We moved from 17,000 square feet of space to our current campus of over 100,000 square feet. We currently have over 300 volunteers and over 100 plus foster care home helping NHS to do their job. These people are the true heroes for this agency. Judy has now retired, and we now have hired Nancy Hintz. After 20 years of serving around 25,000 animals and abused animals a year, we now find ourselves involved in a $14 million enhancement campaign being overseen by Nancy Hintz. We are due to start renovations in November. Our community is very blessed to have generous donations from community volunteers who have cared enough to make a difference. Nancy is now the caretaker of the next phase for NHS. We are confident that she and the staff are very up to the task. I had someone tell me once that did I know that charity begins at home? My answer was, I feel I am doing charity at home. My community, that's my home. I feel that volunteering is a privilege, and I have been very fortunate to have been afforded the privilege to be a volunteer. I also know that this would not have happened without the complete cooperation of my life partner, my best friend, and my husband, Steve. Thank you again for this treasured honor.
I think my wife really is the idea of one person can make a difference, and she really did make a difference. I also would like to thank our friends and family that are here tonight, and in particular our son, who's a very successful Omaha lawyer, and our daughter-in-law, who's a successful corporate executive. They're the people who carry on the traditions and the contributions to the fine city of Omaha. And I'd also like to recognize our classmates that are here and have been with us for many, many years and go back over 50 years. And finally, this is really a special honor for us because, as some of you and most of you know, we came to Central High School as a couple. We left Central High School as a couple, and we're back as a couple. And that's really special for us. And Central really means a lot to us because of that. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee is Olive Graham, Central High School, 1961.
My name is Ann Gallagher, and I am the NHS president at Central. It's my honor to introduce inductee Olive Graham, class of 1960. Graham broke ground for African Americans during her long, award-winning career as a radio broadcaster and journalist. In 1985, she was hired by KUC, the public radio station at the University of Texas, producing and editing commentaries for the station and developing a long-running weekly program featuring campus figures. In 1989, she took over as host of two half-hour weekly news and public affairs shows on the Texas Public Radio Network, one of which was distributed nationally and could be heard in her hometown. The many figures she interviewed included Henry Kissinger, Nelson Mandela, Fidel Castro, Yasser Arafat, Barbara Jordan, and Walter Cronkite. Graham's shows ran for 14 years before she retired in 2003. She died in 2016. Accepting for Olive is Francis Bogus, class of 1966.
Thank you for humbly being honored here for my first cousin, Olive Graham. We were very close. Her mother, my mother, were sisters. In fact, Olive is named after my mother. Purple and white runs through our families. I'm a third generation Central High grad. Olive's mother was a Central High grad in 1936, went on to become a distinguished elementary school teacher. I would like to thank the Omaha Central Foundation, the faculty and staff of Omaha Central High School, Dr. Bixby, Dr. Bennett, and also Dick Zachariah, who's a classmate of Olive's. I'd also like to thank Ann Gallagher, who's my host for this evening. There's one thing I would like to speak about Olive and how she thought and loved Central High School. Two institutions she was absolutely in love with. One was the University of Texas, where her career in journalism blossomed, and first and foremost was Central High School, where her career actually started. Life is a journey, and I was glad to be part of that. I remember the first time that I got a chance to look at a notebook in 1961 when she graduated. I was a seventh grader, and I borrowed it and spent, I think, a week or two going through it and looking at all the accomplishments that Olive Graham achieved in her career. It was the start of her journey. I also would like to think that Olive Graham is emblematic of what Central High School stands for today. When looking through all the literature and speaking with people for the last few years, I've come to believe that Central High School stands for strong academics, strong scholarship, diversity, and global citizenship. I believe Olive Graham's career has established that. Academically, she made the honor roll every semester she was at Central. She was a National Merit Scholarship winner. She earned a scholarship, full scholarship to Wesleyan College in Massachusetts, but her father decided that she should not attend that, as he believed that it would not achieve that standard from here in the Midwest. She accepted that and did not have any adverse consequences because of that. She went on to stay and graduate from the University of Nebraska at Omaha, earning both a bachelor's and a master's degree. I was also on her journey when she first decided to leave the desk and move down to the Tuskegee Institute, where she was accepted a teaching position. I drove down with her to Alabama and helped her get settled. And her career just took off from there. She did go to the University of Texas and study for a PhD. She decided she wanted to go into journalism. She spent her career both as a print journalist for newspapers in Austin, Texas, and she also was a host of a TV program, public TV in Austin, and also with the beloved KUT radio program. Her program is syndicated over 100 stations here in the United States, also the British Broadcasting Network overseas, and Public Radio International. The other scholarship, as I said, she worked for toward her doctorate degree in scholarship, and worked for that. She was also in local citizenship. She was involved in over half a dozen different nonprofits in Texas. She also was obviously a trailblazer in both public radio and public TV. She was a colleague and peer of Gwen Eichel from public TV, and also Michelle Norris from National Public Radio. Her journey brought her back here, and I'm glad to be honored. I want to thank all my cousins who are here and friends, including Virginia Walsh and Michael Olmstead, who've known since the days of UNO. I'm proud and humbled to accept this honor on her behalf, and I want to wish you was here to achieve this honor in front of your friends and colleagues and family. And I could not ask for a better symbol of what Central High School was, is, and hopefully will be in the future. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Jerry Slusky, Central High School, 1963.
My name is Madison Reed, and I'm an NHS officer at Central. It is my honor to introduce inductee Jerry Slusky, class of 1963. This attorney has become a pillar in Omaha's commercial real estate community through his deep knowledge of real estate law and leadership in establishing the city's premier conference on industrial trends. After graduating from Creighton Law School, Slusky began a tax and real estate practice. While teaching a real estate course at Creighton in 1990, he launched a workshop that grew to become the city's annual Commercial Real Estate Summit. Now, each year, more than 1,000 of the city's business and real estate leaders gather to assess market trends and how Omaha might capitalize to grow the city. His expertise in his legal field was recognized when he became the third Nebraska attorney ever inducted as a fellow into the American College of Real Estate Lawyers. Jerry Slusky.
Appreciate it very much, and thanks to the foundation. What an honor, and just fabulous to be selected. I appreciate it very much. Also, my sincerest thanks for the love and support of my family and friends, many of whom are here tonight. My story really begins back in the single digits, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And I've noticed that many of you folks here tonight might remember Playland Park, the roller coaster, and the stock car races in Council Bluffs, because that's the business I was raised in. In addition to running around that amusement park in the summer, probably making some trouble in the winter months when my dad would have more time for the family. On Saturdays in particular, he would say, "Jerry, do you want to take a ride?" And sure, I just spent some time with your dad. I got out there and we'd drive around and go have some breakfast, stop at the park office, and then the next thing I know, I'm touring office buildings, apartments, restaurants, shopping centers, and land in Council Bluffs and Omaha. And I really didn't digest it until I did that for 3 or 4 times over one winter, and then we did it again the next winter, and I started to see what my dad was looking at. When he ran across something that was interesting to him, he needed counsel, and so we would go up to a law office that seemed a big building to me, and I was maybe 9 or 10, and it was just awesome. And this tall, dark-haired gentleman who happened to be the leading real estate attorney at the time in Omaha would come, and we would sit with him, and I'd hear this deal going on, and he would advise my dad on how to essentially get this deal done. Well, that inspired me. That was immersed me in the subject of real estate, and I then entered high school. And during my years at Central, I really focused on English and mathematics. And I think I became so imbued. I think Harry talked about that too, about the way that English was taught by Frank Rice and Ed Clark. You couldn't help but come away with a top quality education that really set the tone for my entire rest of my education plus my law career. So I had a great deal of fun here also. And by the way, I don't know if any of the committee members are still here, but thank goodness that the selection didn't require an FBI investigation. I know that I received a solid education, particularly, as I said, focusing on English and math. And after Central, I went on to UNO, where I also had a great education, but particularly in finance and real estate, I was focusing, and they required me to take a business law course. And out of all the education I had to that point in time, I think that was my junior year at UNO, I ran into a fellow named Frank Forbes who taught the business law course, and he taught it in the Socratic method, the way they teach law school. And there was something about that that really inspired me again. So I had the real estate lawyer from my 8, 9, 10 years old. Now I'm 17, 18, 19 years old, and I've got a professor who's running around the room, and we're reading case law and this and that, and going back and forth. And it wasn't just memorizing anything, it was kind of thinking about the problem and looking at it from both sides. And that was really a turn on for me. It kind of, I think Frank really inspired me to go to law school. So shortly thereafter, I entered trade law. And again, I tried to select courses that would slant toward property, real estate, and try to see if I could find a way to match up law with real estate. And it started to work out. So when I came out of law school, I looked for and found a place where I could actually marry my law background and my education at UNO Central with real estate. And that began a 40-some year career in real estate law, where I did and now focus on development, zoning, leasing, financing, and construction. The really neat thing about this story, I think, and as I thought about this since I was notified by my good friend Dick Zachariah of this award a few months ago, is that I became, work wasn't work. Real estate law for me was a joy. It became a passion. Became something I get up in the morning and go to. And it's not that I necessarily toiled at it that long, but I really enjoy putting deals together, going to the planning board, city council, or whatever, and it worked out great. I know my time's coming, and it's my last page. 20 years later, and Madison touched on this short story, I got a call from the Dean of Trade Law, and he said, "Jerry, I want you to teach our new course in real estate development law." I took the job, and in 1990, we started down the road, and 4 weeks later, I told the Dean, I said, "There's no reason to teach this course because the whole commercial real estate world is falling apart." And those of you that remember the Resolution Trust Corporation, which was a federal bailout for real estate, that's when it came on. But I said, "Dean," I said, "there's one idea I have, and that's this. Why don't we as a law school put on a seminar to teach people, commercial real estate people in our area, about the RTC so we can help them get back on their feet?" At that time, lenders were not lending, builders were not building, tenants were not leasing. And thus was born the Commercial Real Estate Workshop. And I am proud to tell you that April 5th next year will be our 30th year. We're up to over 1,000, as was mentioned. Thank you very much. And I think we've done a great job of putting together a whole real estate community of all types and styles, and to make Omaha and Lincoln better communities for everybody. I appreciate this very much, and I am very honored. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Sally Fox, Central High School, 1968.
My name is Caroline Castro, and I am a senior class representative at Central. It is my honor to introduce inductee Sally Fox, class of 1968. Fox worked diligently to improve the lives of children, the poor, the disabled, and other marginalized populations as a longtime state legislator in her adopted state of Vermont. Fox left Central with a strong sense of justice, pursuing a career in public interest law, in which she advocated for the disabled. Articulate, bright, and passionate, Fox in 1986 was elected to the Vermont House. She served as chair of both the Judiciary Committee and Appropriations Committee, seeing to the funding of assistance programs important to her. She retired in 2000, but returned to politics in 2010 to be elected to the state senate. She served 3 years, but was diagnosed in 2012 with a rare form of sarcoma. She died in 2014, but her legacy lives on. Accepting for Sally is Michael Sorokin.
Thank you, Carolyn. I don't know if you know it, but none of the speakers here can see anything out in the audience. Different last name, but I had the blessing of being married to Sally Fox for an amazing 35 years. My family and I are so honored to be here tonight on Sally's behalf. Sally and I have 2 wonderful sons, Jacob and Jesse, who we raised in beautiful northwestern Vermont. Jacob is here with his lovely wife, Deanna. Please stand up. I don't know, I can't see you over there. They're celebrating their first anniversary this weekend. Sally simply would have absolutely loved Deanna. Our other son, Jesse, could not be here tonight because he and his wife, Danielle, are about to have our first grandchild this month. Sally would have been over the top with happiness at the prospect of her first granddaughter. She always wanted a female addition to her family, and anyone who knew Sally knew that family came first and foremost in her life. While she was the veritable superwoman of the 80s and 90s, balancing all of life's demands, clearly she shined most brightly as a mom. To be honest, I really don't know very much about Central. I know of its history and beauty and how proud Sally was of having gone to school here. But wanting to know more, I reached out to Sally's Omaha family, and one email I got back from Sally's sister-in-law and fellow CHS alumni Shelley Fox was spot on, and I'd like to read it unedited. By the way, Shelley was also married to another person larger than life, who also passed away too soon, Sally's younger brother, Rick Fox. Rick also graduated from Central, was a legend in Omaha's hospitality industry, and maybe one day he will join Sally in the CHS Hall of Fame. Sally would love that so much. So here's what Shelley wrote to me. It was such a cultural thing for Sally to attend the same school her parents, aunts, uncles, siblings, and future sister-in-law attended. Over the years, I've heard countless times from many that knew her of how Sally was smart, sweet, popular, and respected. Central was and is an inclusive environment. It is a school that had students attending from many areas of the city. Real representation of color, religion, culture, political views, neighborhoods, and levels of financial security. A true quote-unquote melting pot. I cannot help but think that Sally's quote-unquote baseline was learned at Central in not only a fine education, but a real mix of Omaha. That might have moved her towards a very open, accepting view of the world, and maybe even her passion for connecting and helping those in need. Thank you, Shelley. So perfectly and beautifully put. As many of you now know, Sally was a very successful politician in Vermont. She had a meteoric rise from freshman House member to chairing the most powerful committee in the whole General Assembly, the House Appropriation Committee, in a very few number of years, and then became an influential senator until the day of her death 4 years ago. Yet despite this, she never lost her humility and her social worker roots, things that I believe were nourished here at Central. Even when she first retired from politics, she took on one of the most demanding, selfless jobs I can imagine. She became the director of Burlington, Vermont's Offender Reentry Program, helping prisoners on a one-on-one basis trying to re-enter the workforce and the local community. She even went so far, and much to my chagrin, to give out our phone number and home address to her clients. That was what Sally was all about, fighting for those in need and without a voice. And to put an exclamation point on it, when Sally passed away in January 2014, the Burlington Free Press, our state's largest newspaper, had the entire front page dedicated to her with the title, Champion of the People. Let me end with this. Sally has received many honors, both before and after her passing, including some as big as annual scholarships in her name and Vermont's largest multi-million-dollar conference center being named after her. However, she always cared so much about her family and her education and her Omaha roots and friends that the honor she is receiving tonight could very well be the most meaningful honor of them all. Jacob, Jesse, and I are so proud. We thank you all very much.
Our next inductee is Merle Rambo, Central High School, 1969.
name is Xavier Herbert, and I am a Central High senior. It is my honor to introduce inductee Merle Rambo, class of 1969. The architect made his mark designing educational facilities, including the year-round covered courtyard at his alma mater. Original district funding for the CHS renovation focused on new windows and restrooms. Rambo had a different vision that prioritized giving CHS a flexible, student-centered indoor plaza. He helped sell the project in his hallmark translucent roof, which was completed in 1981 without missing a single day of school. In 1987, Rambo launched his own architectural firm, which has been nationally recognized for educational design excellence, innovation, and cost management. Rambo is also known for his work with veterans, rooted in his days in Central ROTC. He's the founding patron of area honored flights, which have taken thousands of veterans to Washington's memorials. Merle Rambo.
Good evening. It is a very good evening. I'd like to thank, probably first, our veterans, maybe on behalf of our group, because we wouldn't be here without them. I'd like to also thank, of course, the foundation's leadership, and the Legion of Volunteers that appear each year to bring about this particular event and to carry on the legacy of this school. It's kind of strange to be at the pulpit that J. Arthur Nelson stood at. I want to read the morning circular, and I have memories of it as a 13-year-old that first came to the high school here in 1965, and I'm kind of glad actually that there was a change that occurred a little after that. Things changed a whole bunch. I have to thank also my family, who has always been so supportive of this school, my brother and sister who paved the way, without question, to an easier time at Central, to the sorts of introductions that lasted and spanned from the classes of 1965, when I first came to the school, when I was a freshman, all the way up through the classes of 1972, when my classmates actually graduated. And when I say classmates, I look at a four-year body of students going forward and going backwards, because the Central community is so much greater than just the class we're in. I thank the members also of the class of 1969. They were here with me at kind of a watershed period for Central, because if there were great dynasties of administrators, without a doubt, a half a century was covered by Dr. Nelson and Dr. Moeller. We were at the cusp of that change, and I think administrators today and well into the future have carried forward that change in spirit that took the principal out of the principal's office, and we found him in the hallways. We found a leadership that went from the top to every student in this building. It was expanded over the course of a great deal of stress that occurred during that 1967, 68, 69 period. Again, I thank the class, I thank the people who are involved in it for that being a very, very significant period and a very strong turning point in the school. When I had the opportunity to come back and work on the courtyard, it was a very welcoming family that I had to work with. There were some challenges because a state senator had introduced something called a lid bill. I don't think he was talking about putting a lid on the courtyard. I think he was talking about perhaps limiting funding. And there was an attitude at the time in the Omaha School District, which I'm saying loosely, that Central High School received everything, that they were the recipient of far more than any of the other high schools. Well, I think in terms of people, that's an accurate comment. No one would question it. In terms of money, though, when we were asked to put together a renovation plan, we worked for a course of more than 3 years doing that. First, examining the site as we know it today, making the partnerships with Northern Natural Gas, Mr. Strauss and other leaders at that time, with the Jocelyn, with Creighton, with all those involved, and came up with a plan that's pretty much stood until today. Well, with a few very benevolent exceptions, a football field, a gym addition, and an absolutely beautiful addition coming to the east side of the building in the coming months. Part of that challenge with the courtyard was actually fun because we got to work with the school district's description of what they thought should be done to the building and amend it a little bit. Probably in the best of humor, I had a meeting with Dr. Moeller and Al LaGreca. I think hopefully all of us remember Al LaGreca that were here in that time. He had a very nice little grin that every once in a while would come on his face, pretty much like a contented cat that had just consumed a whole cage full of canaries. I remember going to Doc's office and of course not having to wait for him because he was always there on time, but he was, I think, almost complaining because we had to have some meetings. And I said, well, let's change this around a little bit because I think we need to do something different with the courtyard. We don't want to necessarily replace nearly 300 windows there. I think we want to maybe do this differently. And Doc is just kind of sitting there listening to it saying, well, people have been trying to change this for a long time. In the 30s, maybe, in the 40s for sure, in the 50s for sure, earlier in the 60s. It's impossible. And I said, no, it's really not. You just have to take some helicopters, drop some columns in, forget about the bearing walls. They really won't hold much up. They'd already been tuck pointed. I said, it's not really that hard. And I remember Doc sitting there in one of those very rare poses. Well, not the pose so much, but there was a pause in the pose. And he was just sitting there like this, looking through his horn rimmed glasses at me. And Al said, let's do it. The meeting lasted a lot longer because there were other goals, including not missing any school days. And as Doc said to Al, make that happen. And he did. I'm very appreciative of that. It was sort of like I got two chances to go to Central, and one is, a very young individual, one 10 or 12 years into my career. Both were absolutely enjoyable. I'd also like to take a moment to look at another side and thank the school for the unique opportunities it's given me to work, excuse me, because of my experience at ROTC. And a number of the inductees this evening were parts of that program. I am very, very proud to have been in that, at any rate. I had that. I thank everyone. I thank the foundation. I thank you for the opportunities which have telegraphed to many, many veterans, and its birth is here at Central. Thank you very much again.
Our next inductees are Mike and Susan Strauss Labens, Central High School, 1970.
My name is Hudson Hooper, and I'm a National Merit semifinalist at Central.
My name is Natalie Ruckman, and I'm a senior at Central. It is my honor to introduce inductees Michael and Susan Strauss-Labens, class of 1970. It would be hard to find a pair of Central grads who have given back more to the school than Mike and Susan, whose generosity and leadership has impacted thousands of Central students and will impact countless more into the future. The two attended Central together before both went on to successful professional careers. Susan in the law department of Mutual of Omaha, Mike as a top executive of Nebraska Energy Company.
Both have been leaders in the CHS Foundation. Susan helped establish the school's legacy endowment, and both led the project to illuminate the building's exterior. Mike then co-chaired funding for the new Arts and Music Edition, the couple making a substantial donation of their own. When completed, it will stand as a tribute of their love to Central. Mike and Susan Labels.
First of all, we are both humbled and grateful for this wonderful honor. To be in the company of past honorees is unimaginable, and the list of not yet recognized and still deserving graduates throughout history, and even in our own class, is a long list. I'm grateful to be celebrating tonight with most of our siblings, our daughter, all Central graduates, my high school boyfriend, and my mother. I also accept this honor with immense gratitude of all that I have received from this great school that has greatly impacted my life. To begin with, without the torturous public speaking class taught by Arnie Weintraub, where we had to give a speech every week, I would probably be mortified to be in front of all of you tonight and would not have been as effective in my 30-year career as a lawyer. And without the equally difficult class with John Keenan, where we had to write a theme every week, I would not have developed the writing skills that allowed me to succeed in college, law school, and in my career. But above all, I'm grateful that Central prepared me to live in a world where everyone didn't look like me or have the same socioeconomic background as me. Being a student here in the turbulent 1960s, where racial tensions erupted into violence, I am forever grateful that we had teachers and a remarkable principal, Doc Moeller, that showed us through their actions that we could live together as a Central community and that each person in our community was important. This had an enormous impact on my career as I advised a Fortune 500 company on the development of anti-discrimination policies for 30 years. Finally, through our continuing involvement in the Central High School Foundation, I'm grateful to continue meeting remarkable students and faculty and have the wonderful opportunity to give back in a very small way to a place that's given me so much. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you for this tremendous honor. Growing up, I never could have dreamed of being in the Hall of Fame with stars like Gail Sayers and Mon Green. The Hall of Fame is a very fun Central tradition. We're proud to represent the class of 70, and we have quite a few of our classmates here tonight. Attending Central was one of the best decisions I ever made. I transferred here going into my sophomore year. It provided a great start for the rest of my life. For example, my first date with Susan was during the fall semester of our first year here at Central. I assume the main reason for my selection was my support of Central along with Susan over the last 10 to 20 years. We both agree that Central is a tremendous Omaha asset which needs strong alumni support to survive and flourish. So clearly Central is important to us, but so are the Omaha public schools and generally free quality public education available to everyone. Omaha is fortunate to have great public schools, and Susan and I have been committed to supporting and strengthening OPS, and we encourage all of you to do the same. One of the most significant efforts we've made was to help lead the 2014 and 2018 election campaigns to pass the OPS bond to build new schools and renovate all the existing schools. Both campaigns were successful, and now we're assured that all 52,000 OPS kids will attend safe, state-of-the-art schools. Thank you again for this great honor.
Our final inductee tonight, Sam Johnson, Central High School, 1981.
Hello, my name is Russ Cooper III. I am the senior class president at Central. It is my honor to introduce inductee Sam Johnson, class of 1981. It is hard to imagine that publication of an underground newspaper that nearly got a Central student suspended to be the root of a successful career. But that was just the case for the comedy writer Johnson, who would be one of the twisted minds behind Beavis and Butthead and pen script for the TV show Frasier. After graduating from Yale, he became a writer and editor at National Lampoon. He then wrote for animated Beavis and Butthead, co-writing 2 books featuring the dim-witted duo and co-writing the pilot episode of a spin-off series, Daria. He shared writing and public credits on numerous sitcoms, including News Radio's How I Met Your Mother, Hot in Cleveland, and the long-running Frasier, and the later sharing in multiple Emmy nominations. Sam Johnson, everyone.
I've got a very solid 45 minutes worth of material, so I'm going to do my best. In the winter of 1976, I was just this 12-year-old dummy shoveling snow on Fontana Boulevard and collecting bicentennial 7-Up cans. But my parents did something for me that winter that changed my life and gave me a direction and a purpose. They took my sister and me to see the road show. It was the most electrifying night of theater I'd ever experienced, and maybe to this day that's true. Every kid up on the stage, I mean, to my 12-year-old self, they looked like adults, professionally trained. They were so talented. They were such great singers, and actors, dancers, musicians. I couldn't believe it, and they were so funny. I saw a skit that night that hit me like a lightning bolt. It was a 3-parter. Happened in front of the curtain while they were changing, scenery behind it. The first part, a bunch of old women are waiting for a bus. Old women, there's probably 17-year-old dudes who are dressed as old women, so already it's hilarious. So these women are waiting for the bus, and this flasher comes on stage. A guy in a trench coat, it doesn't look like he's got pants on underneath it, a slouchy hat. He goes over, and with his back to the audience, he flashes these women at the bus stop. And they are appalled, they're grossed out, they're disgusted, they shriek in horror, they run off stage, and the flasher cackles and chases them. Part 2, a little bit later, a couple of jocks crossing the stage, football players, I don't know, they have a helmet, whatever, I don't know what it is. They are crossing the stage, the flasher comes from the opposite side of the stage, and he flashes them, and the dudes are appalled and grossed out, it's terrible, and then they get mad, and they chase the flasher off the stage. And then the final bit is some teachers are standing around and they're drink coffee, whatever, the flasher comes, and he flashes them, and they're very blasé about it. They are teachers, they've seen it all, they don't really care. They kind of saunter off to a lounge to smoke 50 cigarettes, whatever, and the flasher's disappointed. This is not the reaction he wanted. He wanted a little more juice, a little more electricity. So he looks around, he needs another victim. Who's he going to flash? Who is it? Who is it? And then he sees the audience right there, and we're stuck in the old, really uncomfortable wooden seats. We're not going anywhere. My 12-year-old heart is pounding because I know what he's going to do. He's going to flash us, and it's weird and it's gross. But is this high school? Is this what talent shows are like in high school? I don't know. And sure enough, he flashes us. But he's not naked, he's got a big sign, and it says, "Go Benson." To me, that was the most hilarious thing I'd ever seen. I got out of my chair. It was so great. It was like this 3-chapter little story with this beautiful, perfect, period. This great little, surprising to me ending. And not just a punchline, it was a message, a satirical point that I was making. And the point, of course, is that if you are a fan of Benson, you are probably a vile pervert. I love it. I just, from that moment, I was so, I had to go to Central, and I had to be in the road show, and that's what I did. I went to Central, I was in the road show, I was in the spring play, and the fall musical. Everything I learned about acting and theater and stagecraft, I learned right here on the stage from, of course, the great Peggy Georgeson, who taught me the three basic rules, which is know your lines, don't chew gum, and always start your cross on your upstage foot. That's what I learned. And you'd be shocked, Peggy, at how many so-called professionals know nothing of these rules. I'm looking at you, Betty White. But I came to Central, I learned so much more than just that. I mean, I learned the Central Style book from Patricia Ottenreith. I learned from Marlene Bernstein and Dan Daly, this love of literature. I learned from the unflappable and calm, great Mike Garrity, all about journalism. He was such a great advisor to the Register. And I learned from my classmate, the legendary Henry Cordes, who works at the World Herald, all about writing. He's a real writer. And I learned from him just from working with him at the paper. But I think we're all here because of the personal connections we made, all the friendships that we made at this amazing melting pot of a school. So I, of course, would be remiss to not bring up my great friend Scott Barker, Bishop Barker, who, for a man who follows Jesus so closely, he has led me into some very bad paths. It is true that Scott Barker and I went to a public school auction and we bid on and bought this very leaky, old mimeograph machine, obsolete technology even then, and toxic, terrible. But we bought this mimeograph machine, and we used it to publish our own underground paper. Much has been made of that. We did that with our friends Bob Atherton and Stu Magnuson, and it was gross and it was raunchy. But the thing that people kind of overlook in that whole experiment is that Scott Barker had the great idea to use that mimeograph machine to make copies of a stock certificate so that we could sell shares to our classmates so that we didn't have to pay for anything. And I have to say, that son of a bitch pulled it off. I'm so grateful for Central. I can't tell you, I think it's the spirit of creativity and imagination and invention that is baked into these walls that has shaped me in my life in the best possible way. So thank you. I'm so proud to be a part of this band of brothers and sisters. So thank you very much, and go Benson.
So we have come to the conclusion of the 2018 Hall of Fame, and I'm going to ask the lighting crew to bring up the lights if they could.
A little higher, maybe turn down these spotlights, boy. I'm blind right now. One of the things I would like to do before we conclude is that I want to say thank you to the young people who did the presentations. And now, we get those lights all the way up. I would like to introduce to the audience this 2018 Central High School Hall of Fame class. So class. Truly an outstanding class. And so, this is for both the students and our inductees. After I conclude this, you are to immediately come onto the stage so we can get your class picture. Okay? Nobody's getting out of line, otherwise I'm sending Dr. Bennett to look for you. And he is not J. Arthur Nelson, but I have seen him flash, right, Dad? So, to conclude, there's a lot of individuals who didn't get recognized, and I do want to say thank you to everybody who participated in this. It truly takes a village to make this institution what it has been, what it is today, and what it will be in the future. As I began at the very beginning, there is no high school like this. There are no downtown high schools, in my mind, that are open enrollment, comprehensive, that understand that academic excellence is okay to do, that the idea that you can represent your institution in the finest fashion possible, and the idea that it is part of your DNA to give back more than you take. Schools like this don't exist. And so, as you leave tonight, again, please know that I am thankful on behalf of the staff, the students, future, past, and present, that this village is very, very special. So, as we exit the building tonight, we would like you to do it at this level. There are restrooms that are open if you need to use them. We look forward to seeing everybody next year. Thank you very much for coming, and again, congratulations to our inductees.